Okay, your husband Derek was diagnosed with colon cancer.
Yes.
And you lost him about 2.5 years
Yeah.
ago, I think. Is that right?
Yeah.
Just before your 23rd wedding anniversary.
Yeah.
And there were 5 years in between the initial diagnosis and his death. So tell me a little bit. There was some remission, I think, in that period.
Mm-hmm. But in the back of my mind, I kept thinking, okay, this is awesome and amazing, and I'm so grateful that he's healthy and that he's in remission and that he's strong and capable. But it was always in the back of my head, like, I might have to watch him die, and I might have to watch my kids lose their dad, and that's gonna be hard, and I don't want to do it. And so I spent a lot of time during that, like 5 years, like I've told friends, I cried in the shower, like every time I was in the shower. And so we went to Hawaii, and we just enjoyed every minute of Hawaii. We decided it wasn't overrated. It's just as great as everybody said. I kept thinking, are there any other things, that I will regret if he's gone? And I mean, I'm just as terminal as anybody, like sure. I could have died just as easily as he could have. And so it just makes you more aware of what are the things that we should be doing, because we won't necessarily always have this time together. So I was trying to get my son home that day, and the doctor said, I think Derek's probably only got a couple hours. And I said, I need 5 hours. Like, how do I keep him here for 5 hours? Because I've got this son coming from Canada, and he wants to see his dad before his dad dies. And he's like, I don't know if we can do it, but we'll try and get some oxygen here, and we'll just see what we can do. So anyway, I ended up leaving to go to the airport to pick up my son. Like, as my husband's like literally dying, and the doctor couldn't believe it. And he's like, why are you leaving your husband? Like, he is dying. He was here at home, and we had hospice coming in, and his parents were here, and his brother. And so I just left his parents and his brother here, and I took my kids, and I said, we've got to be there for Matt, because he's coming home.
Right.
And he needs to have that support, And so I left, and apparently when I was gone, I was getting some texts from my brother-in-law saying, you've got to hurry, I don't think he's going to make it. And I'm like, we're 20 minutes away. And he's like, okay, we'll pray, because I don't think he's going to make it. So I've got a kid praying in the car as I'm driving. And we get home. But apparently right after he sent me that text, he said that Derek just woke up. And he said, hey, did you guys know that Regina and I took a trip back to the Caribbean?
Okay.
And they're like, yeah. And he's like, let me tell you about it. And that was like the first thing on his mind when he kind of came back to himself a little bit after being on all that pain medication. And kind of, he rejoined us for about 10 days, which was so good. We had that time together. But that was the first thing that he's like, that was such a great trip. And I loved it so much to take Regina and show her all those places I've lived and all those people that I've met. And so I'm so glad we did that. And I think that I'm grateful for those little whisperings in my mind that were like, this is something you'll regret if you don't do it. But this is something you need to do as a family,
This is the time.
This is the time. And I'm grateful because he was super healthy at the time, and it just didn't last.
So when you lost Derek, how do you mother your children through processing that kind of loss while still grieving yourself?
Oh, no. Well, and I think because I had kind of grieved it,
you kind of answered that.
Yeah, and so I think that helped, and I think, we had a lot of people that, like, because we've been in the hospital with, you have cancer doctors, and they're used to people dying, I guess, and so they have all these different counselors and different therapists, and could we have this person meet with your kids, they're specifically trained to help kids through the loss of a parent, and my kids were like, Mom, like that's the last thing we want to do is sit and talk about it. We just don't want to talk about it. And I was like, but that's what we're supposed to do. You know, we need to talk about it, and maybe this will help you. I'm fine. I'm good, Mom. I don't need that. And we did have one of the people come that's hired, I guess, by the hospital. And she came and she sat in her living room with us and all my kids, you know, and tried to kind of get them to talk. And at one point she said, I think you guys are doing awesome. And I don't know that there's much I could say to do or help you with. And so I think my kids are just resilient. And I feel like because we'd had a lot of change, we moved here when they were teenagers. Derek had just been diagnosed with cancer. It was a scary time. They had to make all new friends, switch high schools, the 3 older ones, and just kind of start fresh. And it was, I think, always in the back of their mind too, you know, that we won't always have Dad, and we just need to enjoy it. So I think because we didn't have a lot of regrets, maybe. And we had that little window of time, you know, those 10 days. We had a good week that we kind of all just gathered around his, you know, recliner, and we played games, and they asked their dad all these questions, you know, that they wanted to remember. And sorry, gosh. But anyway, and so I think they had some good closure, you know. They just, and also it's like super bummer to watch your dad die.
Yeah.
You know, and to watch a really strong, healthy, fit man who basically, because of a cancer treatment, the scar tissue had blocked his passageway from his stomach to his intestines. And so he couldn't get any nourishment to his body. And they did all these different surgeries. And so he didn't actually die necessarily of cancer, but because of the scar tissue that had formed during a treatment, they couldn't get food through. And they tried all these different things, and everything just flukily failed. And so we kind of just watched him starve to death, and it wasn't very fun, you know. Yeah. And he lost all his weight, and he couldn't walk himself around. We'd have to help him, you know, to walk those last couple of weeks. And so I think by the time he finally died, the kids were like, "We're so glad, you know, that he's not, in that body anymore." And we felt a lot of peace, just knowing that he is better now, you know. Yeah. He's not sick. But I think it was part of why it was easier for them to let go of him, you know. Mm-hmm. And I've just really tried to we just talk about him, just like it's not weird, you know. So as I've had in-law kids come in, as my kids have gotten married, one of my daughters-in-law said to me recently, one of the things I thought was so great when I met Tanner was the way that you guys just talk about Derek like he's out of town or something. And it's not that we don't talk about him like he's gone, but just this
it's
like
not denial, but he's still part of your family.
Yeah. So we'll say, "Oh, Dad would say this if he were here," or like with Thanksgiving coming, we're like, "We've got to make the celery with cream cheese and pecans," even though none of us really totally love it. We have to make it because we always had it because it was one of his favorite things, you know. Yeah. And so they're just little things like that we're not. I don't know. We don't like totally hold on to. It's not like we go and visit his grave all the time, but we just talk about him, and he's part of our family still. We still think of him as part of our family, and what would he say? What would he do? And also we want those new in-law kids to kind of get to know him. So we talk about him and tell them what he was like, and I think that's healthy.
So, since you lost Derek, when do you feel his loss most, or your loss?
That's an interesting question, because it seems like you should feel it at certain times, right? Like at Christmas or at a wedding, and those definitely are poignant times, you know. But there are just random times where you're just, I don't know, just doing whatever. I'm just doing my day-to-day stuff, and I'll just think of something he would say or do, or I think, oh, I miss that guy. So those always kind of take me by surprise a little bit because they're random. And I think because I prepare myself to miss him at like Christmas or Thanksgiving, or like I said, we've had these 2 weddings. We've got a 3rd one coming up, and so when you're sitting there in a wedding, obviously you're like, we're totally missing somebody.
Yeah.
But I've always felt like I think he can pop in.
Yeah.
I think he can, like, because I kind of feel like he's around, you know, that he's still a part of our lives, and even like, you know, with these kids all finding spouses, I'm like, so is he just somewhere, you know, orchestrating?
Picking them out?
Yeah, because I'm like, we had our kids so close together, but we're getting the new kids even faster.
Yeah,
and it's fun, and I love it, and everyone that's come into our family has been just perfect. They just fit right in.
Cool.
And I'm like, someone knows what they're doing here. They're getting us the right kids. So I feel like he's still around. And which seems weird. I've heard people say that so many times. You're like, that's a nice, comforting thought. I'm glad that you know, have that. But I totally feel that way, you know, that I don't know. So, I mean, obviously, he was big on, one of his hobbies was yard work, and he loved being out in the yard. It was therapeutic for him. And now I've had to take over the maintenance of the yard, which I don't love as much. I always worked in the yard with him because that's how I could spend time with him, and so I enjoy it and I can do it, but it's not necessarily the same for me as it was for him.
Yeah.
So sometimes when I'm mowing the lawn, I'm thinking, like, it makes me feel close to him, but it also kind of makes me mad. Like, like, you should be here mowing the lawn or digging up this tree stump or whatever. So anyway, but.
So that's my next question. After feeling the loss, when do you feel him closest to your family? Or your
that's definitely those
same?
moments, of definitely the weddings. I've totally felt like he's been close, and yeah, there have been times, and sometimes I just hear his voice in my head, you know, so it'll be stuff like, this doesn't sound very nice, but he would, in a teasing, loving way, be like, because I tend to like to start a lot of projects, and it's hard for me to finish them. Okay. And I jump right in, I just go full, and I get it about 90% done, and then I'm like, oh, we should do this. And then I start another project, you know. So he's always like, all right, ADHD girl. Like, he would always say that, you know. And I hear that in my voice every time I start to leave a project. Okay, ADHD girl. So I don't know that that's like him out there somewhere saying that. It's just that you're close to somebody. You've spent a lot of time together. Yeah. And I can hear kind of what he would say if he were here. But I like that. I like that it makes him feel like not that far away. Yeah. You know, even though it's just probably my own mind, just repeating something he would say in that moment. But I like it. Yeah. Okay.
It makes you feel closer.
Yeah. Sometimes it makes me laugh. Sometimes it makes me cry. But I can hear what he would say, so it's good.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, Derek.
Sorry,
that's really beautiful. I have one more question, and then we can do a speed round. You have 4 children launched from the home.
Launched, that's a good word.
Several have served missions for your church. 3 of them now married, as you mentioned, 2 about to graduate from high school here pretty soon. So pretty successfully entering into adulthood, and your younger 2 seem to be headed that way as well. So when you look back, do you have a key thing that you can see that has really helped your children to be successful? What in your mothering has helped prepare them?
Oh, it's so easy to look at all the ways that you wish you hadn't failed your children, right? Sure. Like, it's hard to not look back and think, oh, I wish I would have done that better. But they are doing well, you know, so and I don't know that I can take any credit for it at all. Like, sometimes I think, we nailed it. But then I think, I just can't take any credit. So many people were involved, and they're strong souls, you know, and they are just really good kids, and I don't know that I have a lot to do with it, but I think again, just me kind of emphasizing their own autonomy, you know, trying to get them to advocate for themselves, like with school teachers or with friends, you know, just if they ever had a struggle, just kind of talking through and being like, hey, well, you know, you need to take responsibility for that, and you need to go talk to that teacher, or you need to go talk to that friend, or you need to make that right with your sibling, and not fighting their battles for them. I think, or at least they've told me that they're grateful for that, because then it's helped them in the adulting phase, you know? And it's interesting because they're very independent and they're doing so well on their own, but I love, you know, they'll call and talk to me and tell me about their lives, which I just love that. But I've realized that it's not that really, I feel like I still spend as much time parenting them as I did when they were at home almost. Not really, but you spend so much time thinking about them. And even though you can't really do much because they're independent and they're going to make their own decisions, I think I worry almost more than when they were at home. And I had a little bit more control, you know, like, you definitely need to go and do whatever, you know, but I'm not going to tell them that now. Right. They're adults and I want to respect their ability to make their own choices and stuff. So in ways it's harder, like, to parent adult kids, but it's super fun. I love when they call and chat, and or when they just drop by, and even if it's, you know, after we've eaten dinner and they're saying, so Mom, you got any food? And I'm pulling dinner back out and I'm remaking dinner. And but I love that. I love that they'll come back and they'll visit and hang out. And so yeah, I would say that's one thing. Another thing that I am grateful we did was just having family meal together. And it was a lot of Derek not being there because he had a busy job and he wasn't always home. But I tried to be super consistent with sitting down and having a meal at home. I just loved that time with my kids. I loved it so that they could all touch base with each other. I feel like it strengthened their relationship with each other because they were all going so many different directions. I was going different directions, and to just gather, even if it was for 20 minutes. And it took a lot of work, it took a lot of planning. Like on Sunday nights I'd sit down and go, how are we going to get everybody home at the same time, you know? Okay. And I would often be putting things in the crock pot and starting dinner super early so that we could eat at 4:30 when everybody was home or whatever, you know, or so that there were times when we were going to ball games and it was a picnic style dinner that we would take with us while one kid was doing soccer practice or whatever. And so I was super grateful for that time to just touch base as a family. I feel like that was powerful for us. I'm also grateful that we were able to do a family vacation together every year. We have those memories, and I feel like that strengthened our family. And I don't know, they weren't always like fancy, expensive trips. You know, there were a lot of time in the car and a lot of time being grumpy and eating sandwiches instead of fast food, or, you know. But they made good memories, and I think helped us be close together as a family, which I'm just super grateful for right now, especially because I don't have a buddy, you know. And I don't want to be this big like burden on my kids and make them feel like they have to entertain me and that they have to be there for me now. But I think because we have close, good relationships with each other, that they want to hang out together, they want to be there, and they want to touch base with me, and so I'm glad that we had a good relationship.
Well, thank you so much for doing this with me. I really appreciate it. I think you've shared some really profound and beautiful things. You ready for a speed run?
Yeah.
All
Do I have to talk fast?
No.
I'm not very fast.
No, that's Regina, what's your favorite sound?
I really kind of, this is funny maybe, but I really kind of like when my old kids say, when they come looking for me, like if they walk in the door and they say, Mama! Like, I just love it. Oh, so I love it. So, I don't know, funny. Of course, little kids giggling is always a good sound. But,
sure.
But I really like it when those adult kids are, you know, when their kids are little and they say, Mom, 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 Mom. And you're like, stop saying Mom. But now when I hear him go, hey, Mom, you know, I just love it.
Yeah.
They're looking for me. They
That's
still
cool.
need me,
I
even though
love
they're
that.
grown up. So.
What's your least favorite sound?
The sound of something breaking.
Okay. Yeah.
Like your car, when you hear your car making a sound, and you're like, oh no, something's wrong with the brakes, or the lawnmower, or the vacuum, any sound breaking. I hate that.
What's your favorite word?
I decided my favorite word was joy. I just think it expresses what it feels like, you know? And it's different than just being happy or having fun. It's like this really full, peaceful, content, supported feeling, and I love it. It's my favorite.
That's
so
great.
I think because of that I like the word, because I like the feeling. But,
Yeah. What do you know?
oh, I hate that question. What do you know? I know I'm not perfect. I know there's so many things I wish I could do better. But I know also that it's okay. It's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to not do stuff right. And it's okay, you know, when you replay the conversation in your head that I should have said this, and I wish I would have done that, and I wish I reached out to that person at that activity, or I wish I would have, all those, I wish I would have done that. You just have to let it go. We're doing the best we can. Everybody is. So, anyway.
I like that. What do you want to learn?
I want to learn how to be more, I want to learn how to serve people better. I feel like I have a hard time with that, because I should know how to do that. I hate the word should, but I wish I could do better with that. I have a lot of friends that I really love and I really care about that have done a lot for me, and I wish I could. I want to learn how to, I don't know that you can learn that. I feel like that's some people's gift.
Yeah.
I don't have that gift. Like, can I pray for a gift?
Definitely.
That's what I want to learn. I want to learn how to serve better.
That's cool. I like that. What scares you?
Cancer scares me. I don't like it.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, other than cancer, just because it's taken so many of our friends, right? But other than that, I am a little scared of losing my mind. I'm just afraid I'm going to be a burden on my kids.
Yeah.
You know, that I'm not going to be able to think and remember and do for myself, and that they're going to take care of me.
Yeah.
That scares me.
Yeah.
I'm like, is there something I can do? What can I do? Can I eat something to make me smarter?
Lots of spinach every day.
Yeah, I don't know.
Tell me about a mom you admire.
Oh, my own mom, of course. Like, she's awesome, and she's like the most like patient and just loving and calm and kind, and she doesn't worry about a lot of the things that people worry about. She just focuses in on people. She worries about her people. She takes care of her people, and she just always seems to say the right thing, and she just loves people. And so, anyway, it's a good example.
Cool. That's incredible. Regina, what are you good at?
Oh, yeah, that's another one. Well, it sounds funny since I just said that about my mom, but I think I'm good at loving people, which is probably why I admire that in my mom. Yeah, because I've wanted to be like that, but I think it's easy for me to accept people where they're at, and maybe it's because I'm always so aware of where I'm at and that I'm not perfect, and so I know that everybody else too. I mean, there have been times in my life when I've been going through some really hard stuff, but you put on your happy face. You go to the store and you act like everything's fine, and you go to work and you act like everything's fine, and go to church and you put on your happy face when really inside you're not fine. You're kind of screaming inside. And so I think that I'm always wondering who around me is screaming, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think because of that, it just has given me a lot more tolerance, patience with people, and it's just easy for me to love people. Because I know we're just doing the best we can. So, I don't know.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for doing
You're welcome.
this with me. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.